Hello, in today's video we're going to cover how you can supercharge your retirement using Bitcoin in an IRA. We're going to cover the three types of IRAs that you can use to get exposure to Bitcoin. We're going to cover the pros and cons of each of these approaches. And finally, stick around to the end for my recommendations. Let's start with the basics of individual retirement accounts, or IRAs. The first type of IRA is the traditional IRA. In this type, your contributions to your IRA are tax deductible, meaning you don't pay tax when you put funds into the account. Then, those funds grow tax deferred, but in retirement, your withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income. The second type of IRA is the Roth IRA. By contrast, with this type, you are making after-tax contributions, meaning you pay tax and then contribute funds to your IRA. The benefit is then you are done with taxes, so your funds grow over time tax-free, and even when you make withdrawals in retirement, you pay no tax. Next, let's talk about how to fund your IRA. There's really two ways to fund your IRA. The first way to fund your IRA is to make ongoing contributions out of your paycheck. The IRS sets annual limits for how much you can contribute. For example, in 2025, for most people, that limit is $7,000 for the year. The second way to fund an IRA is to roll over an existing retirement account. You might have an existing IRA account or a 401k from a past employer that you can roll into your IRA. Now, let's talk about the three types of IRA accounts that let you gain exposure to Bitcoin. Each of these three types can be set up as either a traditional or Roth IRA account. The first is the Hold Your Own Keys Spot Bitcoin IRA. In this type of IRA, you are holding actual spot Bitcoin on the Bitcoin blockchain, and you have control of that using your own keys or hardware wallets. The second type is the Custodial Spot Bitcoin IRA. In this type, you are also holding spot Bitcoin or Bitcoin on the blockchain. But with this type of an account, a custodian holds the keys to your Bitcoin, which means you don't have unilateral control to that Bitcoin. Finally, the third approach is to hold a Bitcoin ETF or exchange-traded fund in a brokerage-based IRA account. Now let's talk about each of these types of accounts in a little bit more detail. First is the Hold Your Own Keys IRA. With this type of an account, the IRA administrator sets up a legal entity for your IRA account in which you can hold spot Bitcoin. And you have one or more hardware wallets or keys that give you unilateral control to that Bitcoin on the blockchain. The benefits of this type of an account is it's the most sovereign option. There's no third party that can access your Bitcoin. And most of these accounts are Bitcoin only, which means once you decide how much to allocate to Bitcoin out of your retirement funds, you won't be tempted to move around or trade. The cons to this type of account is that there's often setup fees and ongoing monthly or annual costs to maintain the account. Also, since these accounts are typically Bitcoin only, you do have a little bit less flexibility. So if over time you want to reallocate how much of your retirement funds you want to put into Bitcoin, it's a little bit more cumbersome to do that. Next is the Custodial Spot Bitcoin IRA. In this type of account, you're also holding spot Bitcoin or actual Bitcoin on the blockchain, but while you own that Bitcoin, it is custodied by a third party, either the IRA administrator or a third-party custodian. The benefit of this type of account is you are holding actual spot Bitcoin and not a proxy that just gives you price exposure. But the cons are there's counterparty risk, because you are not in control of those funds. Unlike the first option where you had hardware wallets that gave you unilateral control of that Bitcoin, in this case, there's custodial risk. Also, there's less flexibility because these are typically dedicated Bitcoin IRA accounts, so you can't easily shift your allocation among different asset classes. Finally, the third option, which is holding a Bitcoin ETF or exchange-traded fund in a brokerage-based IRA. With this approach, you use a standard brokerage-based IRA account and you get exposure to Bitcoin using exchange-traded funds or Bitcoin ETFs. For example, Fidelity offers FBTC and BlackRock offers IBIT, and these vehicles trade like stocks but give you direct exposure to the Bitcoin price. The benefits of this approach is it's the most simple, traditional solution. These are the same types of IRA accounts that we've all had for decades. You can have one account and allocate to Bitcoin and other asset classes like stocks, mutual funds, or bonds, and they typically have the lowest fee structures. On the downsides, you have Bitcoin price exposure, but not direct ownership of Bitcoin. And you might also have the temptation to diversify and shift your funds out of the Bitcoin ETFs into more risky investments. So I've explained the types of accounts, and now it's really up to you to do some research and consider which type you should go with. There are some other considerations that you need to weigh in deciding which type of an account and which provider to use for your IRA. There are some new companies popping up that are offering Bitcoin IRAs. You need to make sure you do your research and go with an established company that's got a track record and a good reputation. And you need to consider the total cost of the account. Some of these accounts require substantial initial setup fees, custody fees, and ongoing maintenance fees for the account. Finally, a topic that we don't like to talk about but we need to consider is inheritance. Make sure the account you set up allows you to designate beneficiaries so that your funds can pass on easily to your heirs. Finally, my recommendations. It's really hard to beat the convenience and low fees associated with brokerage-style IRA accounts using the Bitcoin ETFs to get exposure to Bitcoin. But if sovereignty is important to you and you want to hold spot Bitcoin that you have control over, I would go with a hold your own keys IRA. Frankly, given these two options, I would not consider going with a custodial spot Bitcoin IRA. I really don't think there's a need to do that. If you found value in this video, please like and subscribe. If I missed any points or you want to share your experience with Bitcoin and IRAs, comment below. And if you want to learn about the other ways I use Bitcoin to enable my early retirement, watch this video.